Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is Biosphere Reserves Are Evolving as Pockets of Hope. In this article, the writer says that as the tourist season approaches, our consumption of single-use plastic, particularly plastic water bottles, is increasing. With 80% of all tourism taking place in coastal areas, it is crucial to avoid the daily production and consumption of single-use plastic bottles. In the island of Prince Biosphere Reserve in Africa, school children have been equipped with stainless steel bottles for drinking water, allowing them to avoid the daily production and consumption of single-use plastic bottles. UNESCO Biosphere Reserves are hidden oases that protect biodiversity, reduce pollution, and enhance climate resilience. They are living jewels of land, coastal, and marine ecosystems scattered across the globe, where nature and humans come together. World Biosphere Reserve Day is celebrated annually on November 3rd to raise awareness of the importance of biosphere reserves and promote their conservation and sustainable use. Biosphere reserves are home to a wide variety of ecosystems, from tropical rainforests to alpine deserts, providing habitat for countless unique and endangered plants and animals. They also play a vital role in the protection of biodiversity and ensuring the sustainable use of natural resources, as well as opportunities for sustainable economic development. In recent years, biosphere reserves have become crucial in our fight against climate change as they are home to many of the world's carbon sinks, helping to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Carbon sinks, like forests and the ocean, provide solutions in implementing adaptation strategies to combat climate change. At the local level, there have been significant advances in the conservation of biosphere reserves at the local level. For example, in the Sundarban Biosphere Reserve in India, local communities are working together to manage mangrove forests and protect the mangroves. In conclusion, biosphere reserves play a crucial role in protecting biodiversity, reducing pollution, and promoting sustainable development. By promoting conservation and sustainable use, these reserves can help protect the future of our planet and the environment. The next article is The Revenge of Old West Asia. In this article, the writer says that in 1969, Israel's then Labour Prime Minister Golda Meir stated that there was no such thing as Palestinians. During the 1967 war, Israel captured 23% more territories than the 1947 United Nations partition plan for Palestine had proposed. Since then, Palestinian territories have remained under Israel's military occupation and control. Israel's narrative is that it has the right to respond to Hamas's terror attack and uses disproportionate force against the enemy, deliberately targeting civilians, known as the Dahiya Doctrine. General Gadi Eisenkot, a former Israeli chief of general staff, once said about the Israel Defense Forces bombing of Dahiya, Lebanon, "We will apply disproportionate force on it and cause great damage and destruction there." From our standpoint, these are not civilian villages, they are military bases. Israel's current president Isaac Herzog echoed this, saying that there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. The reality of the Palestinians lies between what Golda Meir and Herzog said and the reality of the Palestinians being either guilty or punishable. Israel claims its heavy response is necessary due to its circumstances, living in a hostile regional environment faced with Islamist terrorism, and Hamas being a Palestinian terrorist organization with which political dialogue is impossible. Hamas, the key impediment to peace, was created only in 1988, 21 years after Israel started the direct military occupation of the Palestinian territories. The collapse of Oslo and continuing Israeli occupation led to the strengthening of Hamas, which had always opposed Oslo. By the time the Second Intifada broke out in 2000, Hamas was already in power, and the PLO's non-violent campaign for statehood was seen as toothless by most Palestinians. Iran remains a major rival of Israel in West Asia, supporting Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Iran became a hostile nation to Israel in 1979 after the Islamic Revolution, and Israel supplied the Islamic Revolutionary regime with weapons during the 1980 to 88 Iran-Iraq War. Iran did not have much influence among the Palestinians during the Oslo process, but after Oslo collapsed and Hamas began rising as a key pillar of the Palestinian resistance, it became a major player through its support for Palestinian non-state militias. Defendants of Israel's disproportionate aggression argue that Israel's existence is at stake in a hostile neighborhood. Although neighboring Arab countries attacked Israel immediately after the new state was declared in 1948, it was Israel that launched the 1956 and 1967 wars. Since then, 6 Arab countries have normalized ties with Israel, and Saudi Arabia and Israel have good backroom ties. However, Israel's regional hegemony and deterrence against and friendship with Arab countries have not brought peace for Israelis due to the unaddressed Palestinian question. Hamas's brutal October 7th attacks, the first invasion into Israel proper since 1948, shattered the foundations of the new Middle East with the blessings of Washington. The next article is Slowing Momentum. Persistent inflation alongside moderate growth remains a challenge. In this article, the writer says that recent data, including the official index of 8 core industries for September and S&P Global's Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, for the manufacturing sector for October, indicates a significant softening in economic momentum. The government's provisional figures for output across key infrastructure industries such as cement, coal, steel, and electricity show average year-on-year growth in production eased to a 4-month low of 8.1% in September. The pace of expansion fell across all but one of the 8 sectors, with fertilizers experiencing a contraction from the previous month. Heavy rains in the final month of the southwest monsoon season resulted in a 13% surplus precipitation for September, which likely contributed to dampening demand and output for cement, electricity, and steel. Production, in fact, contracted across all 8 sectors, with the overall index declining 4.8% from August's level. The more up-to-date survey-based manufacturing PMI data for October carries concerns that broader economic momentum may be sliding for the need for traction. The seasonally adjusted S&P Global India Manufacturing PMI signaled sectoral growth fell to an 8-month low last month amid a weakening in demand, particularly for consumer goods. Factories saw new orders rise at the slowest pace in a year, with even international sales losing vigor. With business confidence ebbing to a 5-month low, rising inflation expectations are expected to dictate demand and production growth over the next 12 months. Policymakers must overcome the twin challenges of slowing growth and persistent inflation. The next article is from Business Standard newspaper, and the article is India's Emerging Challenge in Bhutan. In this article, the writer says that Bhutan's first foreign minister, Tandi Dorji, visited China in October, marking the end of a decades-old territorial dispute. The visit has garnered global attention due to 2 reasons: the conclusion of the 25th round of border negotiations between Bhutan and China, and the increasing signs of normalization of diplomatic relations between the 2 countries. Bhutan's relationship with China is determined by its long-standing reservations about opening up to the world and becoming embroiled in great power politics. These concerns were exacerbated by China's annexation of Tibet in the 1950s and the subsequent seizure of 8 Bhutanese enclaves. China's perception of Bhutan being part of Tibet's 5 fingers continued to push Bhutan towards India. In 1984, China narrowed the disputed region to 2 sectors, Pasamlung and Jakarlung valleys in the north, and Dramana, Shakhatoy, Sinchulungpa, and Langmar Po Valley, Yakchu and Charitang valleys, and the Doklam Plateau. For China, diplomatic relations and dispute resolution with Bhutan is crucial for its status as an Asian power and for improving its offensive position vis-à-vis India. However, China has continued to intimidate and appease Bhutan at different times, leading to the negotiation table. Bhutan has expedited the negotiations to further deter Beijing's salami slicing. The domestic economy has provided an additional incentive for Bhutan to expedite the negotiations. Bhutan now sees China as an inevitable and inalienable part of the New World Order, with China's exports to Bhutan increasing from 200 crore in 2020 to approximately 1,500 crore in 2022. Bhutan's imports are intense with capital and machine goods, durable items and everyday appliances, indicating that as Bhutan grows, so will its reliance on China. Despite the pace of developments, New Delhi has not made any public statements, demonstrating its trust in this special relationship and understanding of Bhutan's security and economic challenges. To date, India and Bhutan enjoy a multifaceted relationship, with India importing nearly 70% of Bhutan's total exports and their trade increasing from approximately 9,400 crore in 2020 to approximately 13,400 crore in 2022. Both countries also enjoy close security cooperation, with the Indian military training team continuing to train Bhutanese soldiers. However, new challenges will likely arise. India will continue to watch as both Beijing and Thimphu move from dispute negotiation to border demarcation, while Bhutan will be the latest South Asian country to enter the competitive India-China dynamic. China has hinted at new areas of economic, cultural, and people-to-people cooperation following the establishment of diplomatic relations with Bhutan. The next article is from Mint newspaper. The article is Women in India's Labour Market Address Aging for Better Results. In this article, the writer says that Claudia Goldin's Nobel Economics Prize was awarded to her for her 200-year series on women's labor force participation rates, LFPR, in the US. The U-shaped curve showed high initial levels in predominantly agrarian settings, a downslide with the spread of industrialization, followed by a rise as the sectoral mix turned towards services. Goldin found that gender wage disparities persisted within occupation categories, not because of defiant skill or education, but starting with the birth of a woman's first child. She also gave a name to greedy jobs, where promotion was contingent on people being ready to work very long hours and travel incessantly in exchange for astronomical remuneration. Goldin's work is restricted to the country she knows, and uncovers the barriers women are up against even when they have passed men in skills and education, as in the US. However, the U-shaped curve has been validated against cross-country data sufficiently for it to have become a universal template against which to compare the historical movement of participation rates over time in any particular country. India has always had paid maternity leave in the formal sector, with the rules substantially liberalized in recent years. In the informal sector, there is no paid maternity leave, but no career graph which penalizes discontinuity. The availability of childcare in various forms within and outside the home has made children less of an obstructive factor, at least as compared to the US. It is unpaid care of the elderly, even more than the care of the young, that keeps women out of the labor force. The sharp rise in urban India of paid care for the elderly typically substitutes for children in the diaspora and does not actually release women residing in India from unpaid elder care. India is aging, and the mental states of the geriatric population in India are very little written material. There is very little written material on the mental states of the geriatric population in India, except for the brilliant Hindi novel Ret Samadhi by Geetanjali Shri. There are a few institutions which train geriatric psychologists and counselors, but the supply is pathetically small. For low-income families, even physical correctives that could lighten the load of both elder and caregiver, such as cataract operations or hearing aids or dentures, are beyond reach. Claudia Goldin's award forces us to think about these issues.